Okay, in this lesson, we're going to review the anatomy of compact bone. Remember that there's two types of bone tissue, compact bone and spongy bone. Now, on this diagram, which is a handout for all students, this is a little section from a long bone. Can any of you tell me exactly what bone that looks like to you? That is the femur. And this little section is highlighted. Does that look more like the diaphysis or the epiphysis? Yeah, the diaphysis is the shaft of the bone. It's getting pretty close to the epiphysis, but not there yet. Can you tell me what epiphysis is it closer to? The proximal or the distal? The distal epiphysis. Very good. All right. So there are a few things, just like two, I want to be sure you guys know before we start labeling this bone tissue. And I have it down here. There's two types of bone cells I want to be sure that you know, but it's not on your diagram. So if you get these written down somewhere, I appreciate it. The first one is titled an osteoblast. And I remember being in the same seat as you are, high school anatomy, college anatomy. You're going to hear osteoblast with a B and osteoclast with a C. You have to know which one's which. And so what I did when I was 17 years old taking this class is the B in osteoblast means build. These types of bone cells build more bone. When you break a bone and you need to heal and produce more bone cells, osteoblasts are going to do that. Over the course of your entire life, bone cells get old, they break down, and they get removed. They have to be replaced, and osteoblasts do that. Osteoblasts build bone. Perhaps that can help you remember it. The opposite of an osteoblast is an osteoclast. An osteoclast breaks down bone cells. It's a type of bone cell that actually removes bone. Over the course of your life, you have bone cells that just get old. They get old, they get deteriorated, and you need to get rid of them and you need to replace them. That is what osteoclasts do. And then the final one here is going to be in your diagram. It's an osteocyte. Osteo means bone. What does cyte mean? These are bone cells. Your bones have cells just like any other tissue in your body. Chondrocytes are cartilage cells. Osteocytes are bone cells. Get these three written down, and then we'll go back to the diagram and we're going to label the various parts. Okay. All right, let's go back up. And if you could please have this image in front of you, let's go over it. Okay, let's start off with some of the basics. Right here, you have compact bone. Just like what we did yesterday. Compact bone is more towards the periphery of a bone. It's more towards the outside. If you were to actually use a bone saw, like the guy at the slaughterhouse did for me with the femur that we checked out yesterday, the first type of bone tissue his bone saw came in contact with was compact bone. Spongy bone is further inside the bone. You're always going to come in contact with compact bone first. It's denser. It has less space between the cells. And then you have spongy bone here. The spongy bone is going to be near the medullary cavity, which is where the bone marrow is found. Now, I want to give a new word to you guys. This pattern that you see here, I mean, look at all this. All of that spongy bone right there, you don't need to do any highlighter because I'm going to erase it. That pattern, that type of bone is called trabecular bone. or trabeculae, if you just want to say one word. This basically means highly porous and interconnected rods and plates. That is what spongy bone basically is. Hold on a second. This picture's in my way. There we go. That's better. All right, so that and this, all of this is trabecular bone or trabeculae. Grace, what type of bone tissue is this right here? What does that look like to you? Spongy bone or compact bone? Is it more towards the outside of the bone or more towards the inside? Thank you. Okay, now you guys see these? You don't need to draw this. Just I will erase this and that right there. These are called central canals. These central canals are scattered throughout compact bone. They contain blood vessels and nerves. Remember that your bone is highly vascular. I want to make sure I say that every class this week. You have very good blood flow in your bones, which is what helps bone heal so fast. If you've broken a bone before and you thought a couple months wasn't fast, in the grand scheme of things, it's fast. Some people go for more than a year with cartilage damage or ligament damage. A couple months with your bone, not a big deal. If you had to choose between torn cartilage and a broken bone, I would take a broken bone. It'll heal much faster. Now, you all see this canal right here. I'm highlighting in green. And then this canal breaks off from it. That is another type of canal called a perforating canal. And I have a line here already labeled. You can put your line in there. A perforating canal branches from a central canal. Okay. Next, everybody, there's two different ways you can label this. You can either label this guy right here that's sticking out for you, or you can do what this paper that I have already came with, where it makes a little bracket right here. Either one, you'll have the same thing. This is called an osteon. An osteon is like the structural foundation of compact bone. There's an osteon here. There's one. Here's another. Here's another. There's a fourth one. There's a fifth one down here. Here's part of one there. There's part of one there. Here's a big one that was pulled out for you. Those are all osteons. They make up your compact bone tissue. What is this right here? What is this the opening for? What's that? That's the central canal. You can label that if you like. I'll go ahead and do it. What the heck? Won't kill you. That's another central canal. You have several of them. It holds blood vessels and nerves. Now, the next one I'm going to label on the larger image here, and then I'll do it on the zoomed in image that you also have on your paper. Okay, this is going to be kind of tough just because this is as close as I can zoom in. But if you guys look, there are different bands here, and then here's another one. Here's a third one. I could do this several times over. These bands have names. I'm going to erase this now, so I wanted you to see what I'm talking about. These bands are called lamellae. it's kind of like the rings of a tree. When you cut a tree down, if you look at the cut open trunk, it has rings, and like every ring represents a year. You can find out how old the tree is. Your bone doesn't have rings representing your age, but when you open it, you see all those rings similar to that of a tree. All right, and the last one that we can label with this image is this white tissue that's being peeled off the bone. We did that one yesterday. Do you remember what it is? That's pronounced the periosteum. Aiden, do you see any blood vessels in the periosteum? So would you say it's vascular or avascular? It's vascular. What does that mean? It has blood flow. So it can heal pretty well. When you die, the periosteum breaks down. That does not fossilize. My dog could peel off that periosteum if you chewed on a bone hard enough. You could peel it back. Okay, now let's go to a more zoomed in image here, guys. So let me erase all this stuff. My image is not exactly like yours, but it still conveys the same idea. So give me a second to get that all set up for you. There we go. If you could look at that image there, it's pretty close to what you have on your paper. Here, that's another central canal. That's where blood vessels and nerves are going to be. Next, these structures here, 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 and one more. Those are osteocytes. And they're already labeled for you. Those are actual bone cells. It's the organic component of bone. Those are osteocytes. It literally means bone cell. Okay, next. Here's one of those bands I mentioned earlier. There's one. Here's another. So there's 4 different layers of lamella or lamellae. Same thing. Those bands that you see in the matrix of compact bone. That's lamellae or lamella, whichever. Now, this next term there's been some confusion about, so I want to make sure I'm very clear with everybody. The next term is called lacuna. You see it here. The lacuna is the space where the osteocytes are found. So let me show you. This right here, that whole space is the lacuna. Inside the lacuna is that yellow thing. That is a bone cell. That's an osteocyte. So I want to make this very clear. Lacuna is the space in compact bone where osteocytes reside. And that means where they're found. Okay, and then finally, the last term. The last one is going to be this. Again, this is as far as I can zoom in. Check this out. We have this right here, these two. We have this big one, these and these. Osteocytes kind of look like a bug, like a spider or something. And they had those little projections. Here's a good one. Here, here, and here. Those projections are sticking out of the osteocyte and into the actual bone. These are called canaliculi. They're projections from osteocytes. And that is all for the labeling. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to turn your paper over and see if you can fill in those blanks with the correct answers, and we'll go over it after I feel you've had enough time to do it on your own, okay? So I think 5 minutes is fair. If you can turn your paper over and try to fill it out. And that's it for this lesson.